I want to leap over buildings, want to fly over the shores, save the people from the villains, catch the crooks who rob the stores, write my name upon the sky, and when you call me, I'll be there, faster than a lightning flash, rushing through the cool night air. So start ignition, count to zero. I just wanna be a superhero. With fearless thoughts, emotions swirled, I wanna be the man that saves the world, yeah. The world is full of super problems, so we made up a Superman, but he is just imaginary, and here we stand without a plan, with new ideas and innovation. Man still cannot tame creation, and though I'm told I'll never fly, that doesn't mean that I won't try. So start ignition, count to zero. I just wanna be a superhero.
Welcome back to Global Village. I'm your host, Buddy Cunana. Tonight's topic is Earth Day and climate change. And joining us still is Senator Harrison Alvarez, and he is the chairman of the Climate Institute Advisory Board based in Washington, D.C., US of A. So, welcome back, Senator, for a third and final segment. Again, we showed some nice videos on Earth Day, and which first started in 1970. And so now Earth Day is, how many years? 47 years.
Yes,
It's
been
been yes,
but when we adopted it here, because I filed the resolution in the Senate in 1987, Cory made the presidential proclamation, Cory Aquino, our president, that we should celebrate Earth Day on 22nd of April. Subsequently, when Gloria Macapagal became president, she put out an executive order that we must celebrate Earth Day.
But Senator,
every
yes.
April 22nd.
But in the Philippines, is the impact of Earth Day felt? I mean, is it? What is your opinion of how we in the Philippines are celebrating Earth Day? Is it making an impact on the social consciousness?
Yes, we have celebrated. Children are celebrating it. We plant trees. But the whole trouble is we didn't really have that strong, positive social action to rehabilitate our ruined life support, atmosphere. Atmosphere would include the forest, because there was a period here, especially during the dictatorship, when Marcos gave a lot of logging concessions to many people, including generals, and they rape our forest. So we had a lot of degraded forest, and you know how important forest is. It's not only the trees, it's the biodiversity, because in the forest are many lives, many medicine that have yet to be used. And of course, the forest captures the flood. It also captures
the carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide, because a tree is carbon dioxide. So it's a forest sink, it's a carbon sink, and it's a life shelter, because a lot of forests carry lives. Yeah.
But in the thing, Senator, you should say that you know, the celebration of Earth Day here lacks a certain push. Why is it that? I mean, why is that the case? Why is that it seems to lack some sort of impetus? Why is that the public passion seems to be? I mean, some sectors have it, but it's not. It hasn't reached that mainstream melting point kind of movement.
Because
But critical mass.
It demands a certain level of awareness. we are not too aware of the things that are happening around us as individuals. We're very aware of what is happening in our families, but the environment is something else. We are what you call a developing country. A developing country, people like us are not too technology and science oriented. And this is a science know-how. The developed countries were the ones who started to probe this and gave evidence. So the movement towards a global conference, the Conference of Parties,
Yes,
was
yes.
initiated by EU and the more industrial countries and by leaders in those countries. As a matter of fact, the works that triggered this were written by first the Prime Minister of Sweden, a woman Prime Minister, and then there was a girl who wrote about the Silent Springs, Rachel someone, followed by Great Britain, until there was a summit focusing on this
Yes.
in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. And then from the summit of the UN, a resolution came out, a decision came out, that the Conference of Parties focusing on climate change began in 1995. So since 1990, every year, the leaders of the earth sent delegates, the nations of the earth sent delegates to discuss this problem.
How to work the problem, how to work
solve the
together,
problem,
find
what are these problems,
answers.
the oceans, and then
Yes.
they pinpointed the culprit. The culprit is there's so much carbon,
Yes,
and the carbon is overheating and will eventually kill the earth, because the overheating will
Yes.
kill the life on the face of the
And
earth.
this Conference of Parties, or otherwise known as COP, the
COP, yeah.
And we had the COP in COP 22 in Marrakesh last year.
Yeah.
And then I understand COP 23 will be pertaining to the 23rd Conference of Parties will be in Bonn this November. Now, Senator, okay, let's talk about where we are as a species, as a global community on this topic. Where do we stand? Okay, we've had 22 going on a 23rd COP, Conference of Parties. I said this big symposium almost of or get together
every year.
every year.
From the beginning,
Where
in
do we stand now?
1995, we were pinpointing the blame. You developed countries were using a lot of coal.
Yes.
Then
yes.
you capitalist countries are to blame, etc., until finally the solution of common but differentiated responsibility was arrived at in Poland. In Poland, when the common but differentiated responsibility was accepted as the format, then we started to talk on how to share this responsibility. Big countries, rich countries assume more responsibility with support for us, and we also took in our responsibility to wipe out our own carbon, to protect our environment, and get support from them. And our works will have to be depend on how much they're going to be able to, or they should release for us. So, where are we now? We have now arrived at an understanding of the common but differentiated responsibility, and each one country will have an indicated determination
Yes.
to reduce, to make its contribution. The contribution is reduce carbon dioxide. And then our contribution, which was committed by President Aquino
Yes.
in New York 2 years ago, is 70% of our carbon will be displaced or
Yes.
eliminated, so that only 30% will remain in the year 2030.
Yes. Senator, okay, we've been talking about our commitment, the Philippines' role, what we're going to contribute to this fight. How endangered, how affected are we? I mean, you mentioned the terrible typhoons, and everyone watching tonight on the show can attest to that, the ferocity of our storms, the ferocity of our floods, etc. But, as an archipelago, how are we directly affected, really? What is the most serious threat to us?
The
From climate
irony is
change.
that we are the most severely affected. In Tacloban 3 years ago, we were the most severely affected. Can you imagine 8 people dying of floods? No strong typhoon has ever landed the face of the earth. No typhoon as strong as that one.
Haiyan.
Haiyan. Destroyed livelihood, destroyed the coconuts, destroyed our cathedrals there, and 8,000 lives were flooded. And the typhoons have been, they'll be similarly as strong as that. We were measured as the most devastated country and one of the third most devastated country because of these floods. We are not yet hit as strongly as some other countries like Turkey, like Iran, with the drought in the Sub-Saharan deserts. They have droughts there that last for years, for 3 years. But we have some droughts already
Yes.
in Mindanao and in Cagayan Valley, my home valley.
And also, Senator, the changing weather patterns that now you cannot anymore predict when the rainy season is, when the dry season is. It's become overlapping, and I'm assuming and I'm sure that this has a very big negative impact on our agricultural sector.
Yeah.
Just the
Well-
inability to predict the seasons, which we as a people, as an agricultural-based community before would do.
We cannot predict, but we have already had many experience on what anticipating measures, protective measures, we call them, these are the adaptation measures. And the world community has come up with many conferences on how to be able to adapt. We have the Hyogo systems of adaptive
Yes,
measures.
yes.
We call them the systems of risk reduction, risk management. So we anticipate certain volume of wind will come and there's going to be flood. And there are systems of adapting. And the communities will prepare for it. Well, let's say the city of Manila. If we should want to go, and I doubt if they already have a preparation, there should be a sudden big storm like the one that hit Tacloban.
Yes.
Do we have a program for first assessing the risk? They must be assessing the risk by now. They should be.
Yes. Yes. They should.
Mayor Estrada, very seasoned politician, should have a team already assessing the risk. Okay?
Yes.
And then when the risk is there, then they will have a risk management system. Okay? And then a risk reduction. How do they do this risk assessment? Oh, there are many ways of doing the risk assessments. They can assume that the gust of winds will be this high and the floods will be this disastrous. And then the risk reduction, of course, what are the anticipated things that they must know for risk reduction? Well, they will move the people in the flooded areas into the less vulnerable areas. From the steros, away from the steros, if there should be flooding, because there will be flooding there. They should establish refuge system. And then our pipe and water tunnels should be large, not the water tunnels that are this big. They should be huge water tunnels that carry the flood. For instance, under España Street, which is usually flooded, there should already be caverns underneath. So that as soon as the waters come, waters will go down and the city will not be.
I guess the moral of the story.
Those are risk anticipations.
I guess the moral of the story, Senator, is that really we live in this changing world, and we must adjust, we must adapt, we must be prepared.
Yes.
And while all of us are working hard to mitigate the effects of climate change, it's happening. It's undeniable that it's happening, and I guess we just have to work together to make sure that we can somehow minimize the effects, the negative effects it has on us and our communities.
This risk anticipation,
Yes.
these risk reduction techniques, this risk reduction management will have to be deployed, and there are already rules.
Yes.
And our government, local government, many of them
Yes, I hope,
are
Senator.
prepared.
Yes, sir. I hope that we can cover this topic in the future show to talk about very interesting risk reduction and the policies and programs that communities and local government units should have in place to prepare for prepare for climate
there's
change.
The town of Calibo, Aklan.
Yes, maybe we can
They
invite.
planted, yes,
yes, sir,
invite
the mayor of
the fellow who,
yes,
the
sir.
son of the fellow who initiated this. They planted 250
Yes.
hectares of mangrove.
Yes. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our show. We only have 50 minutes here on Global Village every week. But Senator, on the event, on the occasion of Earth Day, which we've recently celebrated, and Earth Month, which we are still in, would you like to say something to the viewers? A short
Yes,
message of hope and inspiration?
During the time of the Cold War, there was a sense that the Earth will perish, will die. Because the Earth, after all, is very vulnerable. If there was a nuclear confrontation between the capitalist and the socialist countries, the nuclear warheads would have been sufficient to burn the whole earth if they were ever exploded. Fortunately, humanity had the wisdom to negotiate. And there is even a prohibition for a country not to build nuclear warheads anymore. And so we were able to manage that disaster to ended the life of the earth. But now there is this threat, and the earth could die. We have some time left, and we can cooperate. There are voices like Mr. Trump, but I think he will become a very distinct minority, especially from the youth of his own country. The danger is carbon dioxide, which we must reduce. We must cut, and cut systematically and decisively, so that we'll put in climate energy. If we still have to have these creature comforts of good lights, air conditioning, broadcasting, etc., where we use electricity every turn of our life, we must remove carbon dioxide and gradually replace it with alternative energy from the sun, from the wind, from geothermal, from the waves, from the ocean. And there is an abundance of it. We have the technology for it.
Very well said, sir.
And the science is already
Yes.
developing and galloping.
Yes, sir.
It's only for our own determination.
Very well said, sir.
Leadership of our leaders, yeah.
Very well said. And of course, we have you to thank for starting this movement in your Philippines, Senator. Thank you so much for coming on Global Village. Again, an honor to have you here. And I'm sure our viewers now are so much enlightened, so much more enlightened about the issue. And I hope this is something that you and I can work on as we move forward in 2017 and onward to COP23 in Bonn, Germany.
Yes, and your grandchildren will survive.
Thank you very much, sir. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's topic on Earth Day and global warming and climate change with, of course, Senator Harrison Alvarez, Chairman of the Climate Institute Advisory Board in Washington, D.C. Join us again next week here on the show, and let's take you around the world. Till next week, you all have a good evening.